Hello and welcome. I am live from Pellam's Wasteland, and today I have another episode of Pellam's Wasteland Reads for you all. This time covering Wait by Jeanette Winterson and Exile and the Kingdom by Albert Camus. So these are both shorter books. Wait is essentially a little novella, and Exile in the Kingdom is a collection of short stories. And both of these I read in the midst of reading another longer book when I needed breaks from the great big long book that will be my next video. Um, I would read something shorter and smaller and a little easier to um, move through in one go. And so that's both of these. But I liked both of these a whole lot. Um, and so I thought I would talk about them. Wait by Jeanette Winterson is a retelling of the mythology around Atlas, the Titan, and Heracles, who I will probably end up calling Hercules, um, uh, because that's the just more familiar name to me. Um, but it is a story about both of those characters beyond their specific encounter on one of Hercules' labors. He is tasked to go get the golden apples of the garden of the Hesperides, I think is how you pronounce them. And there are Atlas's daughters, and Hercules, in exchange for aid in this task, helps. He supports the weight of the sky instead of Atlas for a time, because that's Atlas's normal punishment. He's a Titan, and as payback for all the things that he's done, he's supposed to hold up the sky forever, right? So you've, I'm sure, seeing the kind of image of this figure holding up the sky or holding up the world or all these different things, big strong Titan doing all that. And Hercules does it for a time, and he's the only one who does it for a little while, and the rest of um, existence from the time of punishment on, Atlas is suffering. Um, and this is a retelling of that story that gets into some of the other details. So there's a little bit about Hercules also rescues Prometheus from his punishment famously. He also has some kind of other stuff going on. Of course, there's a bit about the the last the last parts of the Hercules story, but then there's also some stuff about what was Atlas doing before he was punished for all this, and yeah, it's a really well done mythological tale, I think, and interesting. Jeanette Winterson spends a fair bit of time talking about kind of a sort of metatextual discussion of why this story and why stories and mythological tales in general matter, which is really great. I think it's a well written and really enlightening presentation of this sense of the value of literature, this idea that art and storytelling done at their best are important, and that they matter to the human experience, and that there is something kind of elemental that is captured here and captured all these other places that is um, good for people to be exposed to, I suppose, and is worth experiencing because it is a part of the sort of meaningful elements of existence, which is great. It's yeah, it's pretty cool to see. And then there's some other there's some fun little extra kind of extrapolations on the mythology, which is cool too, which I guess sort of brings us full circle to this idea of the relevance of these stories, this type of story, this idea that a story from hundreds or even thousands of years ago could still be very relevant and could still be meaningful and provide something critical for um, people today. That is part of why this one is great. I haven't read any other Jeanette Winterson. I know Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit was recommended to me years ago, and I haven't gotten to it, unfortunately. But I'm definitely going to have to check out more because I liked Wait a whole lot. I thought it was quite good. It's pretty short. It's very compressed and really, kind of I guess it's dense, and it gets to all of these important ideas and meanings um, quickly and efficiently, and does this the kind of compression that is related to art being really meaningful, I guess. Anyway, speaking of art and meaning, Exile and the Kingdom by Albert Camus is a collection of short stories by Camus. Um, I if I remember correctly, this was published only a little before he died. In the whatever first version is, I don't know if that's in the translated version that I read or in an original French version because he was a French writer. Um, but it's a quality collection of short stories that similarly are about these characters experiencing something difficult to comprehend sometimes and difficult to convey precisely what it means. Um, there's a sentence that I really love in William Gass's introduction to the Recognitions by William Gaddis, where he says, "No great book is explicable, and I shall not try to explain this one." And I think that it captures something really wonderful about the sort of idea of the necessity of the work of art in its kind of completed form. This idea that a really great piece of art sort of resists um, summary, and that there's something definitively lost in this process, that it is kind of fundamentally itself in a way that resists trying to represent it as something else, even to explain why it's good and powerful and all that sort of stuff. Which I guess is just sort of an excuse for me to say I don't know necessarily a whole lot of what to say about this, other than I really liked the short stories involved. There's a couple of really fun ones. I particularly There's one that I liked a lot that is a a our protagonist is working in a barrel factory, a warehouse where they build barrels, and he and his co-workers have attempted a strike to negotiate for better pay and all that sort of stuff. The attempts of organized labor to improve the position of organized laborers, and they have failed. And the story basically covers one day after this failure of a strike from these men who are demoralized and all that sort of stuff as a result. And they're in a very kind of complex position with their boss, who is, as you might imagine, the owner is pretty mad about all of the things that went on, and is there's a real underlying tension there, and it's a really it's a story that is not so much about all of the things that are specifically happening within the story, as much as it is about this kind of state of tension that all the characters are in a way that's really fun and interesting. This idea of all of these different men in this kind of complicated and difficult to deal with position of tension that is a lot of fun. But then there's others. So that's I would say a very serious story about serious issues. And then there's another story in this collection that is about serious issues, but it is not particularly serious. It's kind of a ridiculous story about this artist Jonas, who is a painter, and all of the ways that his life is kind of completely deteriorating around him because of his ideas about the nature of being an artist and all of that sort of stuff. And it's very comical. It's about, he lives in a tiny little apartment with his wife and his kids, but all of these other aspiring artists are always coming to visit him and show him their art, and he spends as much time saying nice things about their art because he remembers that when he was a young artist, that was so important to him, and so he doesn't get a chance to do as much art as he wants, and as a result, his kind of cultural capital is in decline, and so fewer and fewer people are coming to visit him, and he feels like he's losing the muse. It's a very um, comical, comically toned story about these really kind of serious issues of trying to understand what like the process of creating art is like and ought to be like, and how a person could create something that is kind of not just a fabricated object but a work of art, and what does that mean and all that sort of stuff. And that's yeah, really cool and great, and a fun story to read, and a really a a demonstration of the kind of blend of subtle humor and um concern for these sort of serious, grander, more tragic than comic ideas. Anyway, I haven't read that much Albert Camus. I read The Stranger in high school and I liked it all right. And I know we also read the Myth of Sisyphus essay then. And then since then, I've read a couple other things. I've reread The Stranger, and I've read one or two others, and broadly liked pretty much all of it. I think the sort of stuff that has felt a lot more relevant in my adulthood. I think, in particular, um, reading The Stranger at, I don't know, 16 or so. The idea of, I mean, obviously, 16-year-olds are often bored by the things that they have to do in school and all of that sort of stuff. But the idea of reading it at 28 or something, and living by myself and working a day job and all that sort of stuff, and the kind of presentation of ennui and disillusion and all that sort of stuff, it's a little different based on the position in life. And I think similarly, this particular collection of stories might not have hit the same way for me, even fairly recently, but that as I have grown older and hopefully matured at least a little bit and all that sort of stuff, there's some really good stuff in this particular collection, having read it now. So I recommend both of these. Like I said, they're both pretty short, pretty easy to read fairly quickly because they're short, although they are also both think fairly dense and uh, works of art that you can sink your teeth into if that is what you desire also, and hopefully you do if you're reading stuff like this. So anyway, yeah, Wait by Jeanette Winterson and Exile in the Kingdom by Albert Camus, recommend for both of them. And that is going to be it for me for today. So, hope you have enjoyed. Leave a comment down below if you've read either of these, if you like them, or I guess if you dislike them, or whatever else. If you're inspired to read them after listening to this, that would be cool too. Otherwise, I've been live from Pellam's Wasteland, and I will see you next time. Take care, everybody.